All right. Good evening. Welcome to the March 4th, 2024 meeting of the Farmington Hills City Council, calling the meeting to order. And as always, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we've asked Brad Heap to lead us in this. So Brad, if you could go to the podium, please. Thank you.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And roll call, please.
Council members Aldred.
Here.
Bolaware.
Here.
Bridges.
Here.
Bruce.
Here.
Dwyer.
Here.
Knoll.
Here.
And Mayor Rich.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, item 1, approval of the regular session meeting agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve the agenda as published.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Support.
Okay. This is a
Regular.
Pardon me?
Regular.
A regular vote. All those in favor, please, I should know this by now. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Meeting will continue as published. Item number 2, we look forward to this. Thank you. The report of the Historic District Commission providing their 2023 annual report. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Rich.
Good evening. If you could please pull the microphone real close because the acoustics in here are awful.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll try not to yell. Is that too loud now?
It's perfect, actually.
All right. So good evening, Mayor Rich and members of the council, City Council. I am Marlene Toulis. I'm the chair of the Historic District Commission, and I'm here to present the 2023 annual report. Perhaps. City of Farmington Hills Historic District Commission is charged with preserving the historic districts within the city that reflect the elements of the architecture, the cultural, economic, political, or social history of the community. The 7-member commission is comprised of city residents working diligently over the past year to further this goal, and the report summarizes the commission's activities in 2023.
We're working on getting your presentation shown. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right.
You all worked really hard on that.
Commission membership is myself, chair, Ken Clemmer, who is vice chair, Alec Thompson, recording secretary, James Paulson, John Treffelet, and Steve Olson. City staff liaison is Chris Canty. City council liaison is Valerie Knoll. For 2024, we will have the full membership of 7 with the recent appointment by Mayor Rich of a commission member. I never was good at AV. The 2023 goals, objectives, and initiatives. We set out to assist the city's special services with continued restoration on Fieldstone Wall at the Sherman Goodenough House. To assist the city's special services department with an upcoming work on the Spicer House and implement a comprehensive restoration plan for the site. To continue collaboration between the Historic District Commission and the city's Department of Public Works in implementing the cemetery preservation plan, including additional monument cleaning and resetting. Continue the Update Blue Book, which is our official guide to the historic districts for accuracy and comprehensiveness, and to complete the study of properties identified in the 2022 reconnaissance level survey by contacting property owners and informing them of the benefits of local historic designation, and to continue to identify new sites for possible historic designation. In 2024, Our goals and objectives and initiatives are to continue to update this Blue Book, the city's official guide to the historic districts, for accuracy and comprehensiveness, to continue collaboration between the Historic District Commission and the city's Department of Public Works in implementing the cemetery preservation plan, including the additional monument cleaning and resetting, to revisit or develop a Spicer House preservation plan, to host a preservation workshop for the public, to identify properties within the city for possible inclusion in the historic district, and to assist with the development of the Sarah Fisher site. Wrong way. To review 2023, our meetings are held once a month. Last year we had 9 regular meetings. 3 of the regular meetings were canceled due to lack of business, and 7 certificates of appropriateness were issued. The certificates of appropriateness are granted for a project which meets the United States Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, as set forth in Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 67, as amended. The fractional schoolhouse on Middle Belt was constructed in around 1870 on the site of an 1850 school that burned down. It is made of Michigan stone. It's the only one-room schoolhouse in the area that's been used continuously for educational purposes. It's now the Hillel Day School. We issued a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of an ADA-approved ramp to access the building, to construct a serving deck with the ADA ramp at the rear of the building, and to replace rotted and damaged wood siding and the repainting of the building. The Halsted Apple Barn, it's visible from Halsted Road, so this may be an unfamiliar viewing of the area. The barn was built in 1891, and the living quarters, which you see pictured, were added in 1901. The Historic District Commission issued a certificate of appropriateness for construction of a 6-foot kennel-style fence for the applicant's 2 rather vocal and aggressive dogs in accordance with the issued court order. The kennel would run the distance of the back, and in the time that it's been erected, there's vegetation growing over it, so you can barely see it, but the dogs are enclosed. The Sherman Goodenough House on Farmington Road. The Special Services Department requested a certificate of appropriateness for replacing the existing light structures with the addition of 1 pole, which represents a move by the city toward smart lighting. The lighting fixtures are to be compatible with the aesthetics of the historic building. The next 4 certificates of appropriateness were issued for the Lemuel Botsford House on Farmington Road. It was built in 1837, and it replaced a smaller structure that was on the property just prior to that. It was built in the Greek Revival style, which was popular at that point of architectural history. In 1930, an additional wing was added to the building. We issued a certificate of appropriateness for basement windows. They were removing the 3 wood frame glass paned windows in the basement to install glass block windows. We issued a certificate of appropriateness for installing a 4-foot black chain link fence along the north front of the property, north lot line of the property. Wrong way. Nope, right way. Ah, my fingers have a mind of their own right now.
Take your time.
There it is. We issued a certificate of appropriateness for a resurfacing of the existing deck and to remove the railings that were on the deck. And we issued a certificate of appropriateness for a generator in the rear yard that was covered or screened with landscaping. The highlights of our year last year was the implementation of a cemetery master plan, a historic resources survey, in which we were looking at structures from the 70s and just prior, as these structures have reached historic status, which is a shock to some of us, 1970s. The restoration of Botsford Inn's exterior and replacement of the Spicer House roof. I have a quote from Benjamin Franklin, who was one of the founding fathers of the United States, and he left behind a wealth of wisdom and memorable quotes. He says, "Show me your cemeteries, and I will tell you what kind of people you have." Beginning in 2022, the Commission undertook leading the preservation of the two city-owned cemeteries, Farmington West and East, which is known as the Utley Cemetery. We cleaned up the landscape. We were cleaning the markers, resetting and restoring the markers, finding the markers, and we have seen progress that is steady and includes both volunteer efforts and the engagement of professional services. We've designed a new cemetery sign that we want to install at both cemeteries. We want to show that the Historic District Commission is embarking on a cemetery preservation program, and we have collaborated with the Department of History Schoolcraft College classroom and Boy Scout Troops 45 and 179. And we also have a plug, which is to volunteer with us. Please contact, and we have provided a phone number, and we do hope to get some members of the community come out and help us out. It's a lot of sweat equity, but it's good sweat equity. Commissioners, with the assistance of the Department of Public Works, Fenton Memorials, and volunteers, cleaned and reset monuments in both East and West cemeteries, including the resetting of the larger, heavier monuments. In 2023, on two separate occasions, the Boy Scouts assisted commissioners and volunteers with re-leveling smaller stones and touching up cleaning at the East Farmington and West Farmington cemeteries. The work is continuing into 2024 with this sign, and perhaps we'll have more volunteers. Perhaps another source, all right, backtrack. In your packet, there should be a couple of supplemental pieces of material. One covers the annual report of the cemeteries, and the other is an article from Schoolcraft College about this class that came out to the cemeteries. They're doing data input, they're researching the history on some of these monuments and documenting photographically and written. And this, hopefully they'll create a CR code for the cemeteries. And I have to say, the cemetery would not be possible, the work would not be possible without the budget to support it. And we thank you for the 2023 budget consideration. we were able to accomplish much, and we certainly look forward to finishing West Cemetery and turning our attention to the Utley Cemetery in 2024. Botsford Inn was built in 1836 by an Allen Weston, and this inn was used as a hotel and a tavern. It was significant as a 16-mile house when it was owned and run by Stephen Jennings on the Detroit to Howell Plank Road. Milton Botsford bought the inn in 1860 and gave it his name. In 1924, Henry Ford became the owner of the inn, and he did extensive restoration. He also moved the inn back to make room for the widening of Grand River. In 2006, 2007, extensive restoration work was undertaken, resulting in the footprint that we see of the inn today. 2022, 2023, in disrepair. The inn undertook another restoration attempt, and the work was completed in 2023. We hope that the current owners, which is Beaumont Hospital, Beaumont Corwell Hospital, will continue to be good stewards of this historic property and recognize the value of this building and utilize it for community events or medical events or something. All they have to do is ask us, and we can provide all kinds of suggestions. The Spicer House roof replacement, we work closely with the Department of Special Services to find an appropriate solution for the replacement of this cedar shake roof. The subcommittee assessed the different options presented by the department and explored various reasons to say yay or nay. We did a vote on a synthetic shake shingles in the colors of aspen and ridge caps to be a mix of this age mission and autumn. And we feel, as you see in the picture in the bottom, we feel that these synthetic shakes do resemble very much the cedar shakes, but they will last a lot longer. They're sustainable material, and they'll require little in maintenance over the years, unlike a natural cedar shake. Repairs, well, the materials have been delivered, but the repairs will begin as soon as winter gets out of the way. I've enclosed a couple more pictures that I think are worthy of note. And meanwhile, the wood elements that are around the windows, around doors, the window sills, stone surfaces inside and outside are deteriorating. And we hope for room in our budget to promote a new or revised preservation plan to address these multiple exterior and interior materials issues. Preservation plan would include ongoing maintenance plan for the city to follow. We are faced with a possible loss of the Nehemiah Hoyt House, which was built in 1851. It's been abandoned for a number of years. The house needs to be mothballed at the least, but there are legalities to be resolved before any progress can be made to secure this property or to determine its future. And in the meantime, the tree was removed, but it left a hole in the side on the second floor and damaged the eave and the roof where the tree fell on it. So we've considered, all the critters and possible vandalism, et cetera. Commission will continue to work with the city to protect the architectural integrity of the properties that have historic designation in Farmington Hills. We'll press for protections against unsecured vacancies, damage from climate conditions, and other infestations. Are there any questions? Whoop, I'll get that in a minute. Are there any questions?
Council,
Thank you.
questions? Any comments? Yes, Val.
I just want to thank the Historic District Commission for their hard work. This is truly a committee that's not afraid to roll up their sleeves and put in some sweat equity. As you probably saw from the pictures, I think all of the committee members have been out cleaning up our city-owned cemeteries and digging for tombs that have been buried, or markers that have been buried, and scrubbing them clean, and working with the historic preservation expert to basically restake them. There's a method that's used to that. It's quite complex, and that's why they actually had to hire someone to do that. But they've been involved in every single step of the way, and I encourage you all to go out and look at the cemetery. This partnership with Schoolcraft College is also very unique, thanks to one of the Historic District Commissioners actually being a history professor at Schoolcraft College. We're very fortunate to have his knowledge and expertise on this commission. So they're really a great group of individuals, very hardworking with good ideas, and we're thankful to them that they are helping the city with their expertise really maintain our history at our cemeteries, as well as everything that they've been doing for the Spicer House. And the Longacre House with the wall outside, the fieldstone wall on Farmington Road. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for rolling up your sleeves and coming out to help us.
It's fun.
It's very clear that the Historic District Commission knows the business end of a shovel, and everybody comes complete with their work gloves. So I had the benefit of attending one of their meetings recently, and what a great group of volunteers. I mean, really, you show what one of our boards and commissions needs to be, just the level of engagement and enthusiasm and excitement for what you're doing, and you're really making a difference. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, the report is received.
Okay.
That then takes us to correspondence. Any council members have correspondence that they would like to share at this time? Nope, seeing none. That then takes us to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine, administrative, or non-controversial by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen requests, in which event the items may be removed from the consent agenda for consideration. And I believe we did receive an email request for one item to have specific conversation. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Mayor. The question is about removing an item from the...
We have one item that was asked to have specific consideration by a resident.
Yeah, if City Council decides that it would like to remove that from the consent agenda, it can do that and consider it separately under the consent agenda items for discussion section of the meeting. And you would do that at this time.
Okay, thank you. And
If you
so
wish to, it's discretionary.
all right, these items will be read by the Mayor Pro Tem, and then we'll look for a motion.
Okay. Madam Mayor, item 7, recommend approval of Planning Commission Annual Report 2023. Item 8, recommend approval of purchase of Motorola mobile radio and accessories to Motorola Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $16,988.17. Item 9, recommend approval of award of contract for 2024 local road asphalt rehabilitation project, Ramble Hills and Wynwood Point subdivisions to Nagle Paving Company in the amount of $1,493,399.43. Item 10, recommend approval of award of contract for 11 Mile Road reconstruction project from Farmington Road to Orchard Lake to Springline Excavating LLC in the amount of $4,444,990.96. Item 11, recommend approval of award of contract for Heritage Hills and Wedgewood Commons Subdivision Road Reconstruction Project Phase 4. Is that 4 or 5? That's 4. To Florence Cement Company in the amount of $6,072,964.30. Item 12, recommended approval of award of contract for Farmington Freeway Industrial Park reconstruction. Project Phase 3 to Hard Rock Concrete Incorporated in the amount of $3,464,121.46. Item 13, recommend approval award of contract for Muir Cove and Merlon south of the Minnow Pond Drain Gravel Road Conversion Project to Springline Excavating LLC in the amount of $858,635.15. Item 14, recommend approval of City Council study session meeting minutes of February 5th, 2024. Item 15, recommend approval of City Council regular session meeting minutes of February 15, 2024. Item 16, recommend approval of City Council study session meeting minutes of February 12, 2024. And lastly, on item 17, recommend approval of City Council regular session meeting minutes of February 12, 2024.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read by the Mayor Pro Tem Michael Bridges.
Okay, support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported.
Councilmember Bridges, we
Sorry.
skipped over item number 6.
6 was.
The bottom of page
I
1.
didn't, oh, my, let me get that. I was, exactly. Thank you for catching that one. Let me make a statement on item 6. Recommend approval of adoption of revised engineering design standards for site development and redevelopment. Also added to the additional
And then,
items.
Mr. Bridges, when my ear heard you say for item 15, my ear heard you say February 15th, not February 5th?
February 5th. Right.
You want February 5th? Okay. With that all in view, your motion, Ms. Bulwer?
I amend my motion to approve the consent agenda items 6 through 17 as read by the Mayor Pro Tem Michael Bridges.
Thank you. And support, Ms. Knoll?
I support.
Thank you. And this would then be a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Knoll,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes?
Aldred,
Yes.
and Mayor Rich.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. That then takes us to public questions and comments. We have a stack of blue cards, and the first one I see is Mr. Mike Sweeney, representing the Emergency Preparedness Commission. I'm guessing you have your Emergency Preparedness Commission tip of the month.
Yes, ma'am. The tip of the month, actually, this is February's tip of the month.
Okay.
I came here on Monday and talked with our city clerk and was promptly thrown out because there was an election happening the next day,
Imagine that.
and I needed not to be here. So I said, yes, ma'am, and proceeded to leave the council. Again, my name is Mike Sweeney, Madam Mayor, members of council, city staff.
And into the microphone, please. Thank you.
And I am one of the members of your Emergency Preparedness Commission. And with me tonight is Dr. Harrison Igwe. He is new to the commission, and he wanted to see how presentations are made to City Council.
Well, does he want to come up with you? And thank you for your service.
Do you want to say 2 seconds?
Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm shadowing him to see what goes on. Thank you.
Thank you.
The tip of the month for February, the Center for Disease Control tells us that in the last calendar year, some 800,000 Americans suffered a cardiac problem. By that, they meant heart pain, palpitations, difficulty breathing, and some 350,000 of those their hearts stopped. They required the chain of survival assistance, and typically people think that means that the fire department, paramedics are going to show up and be there. And our paramedics are some of the best in the world, and they will be there in 2 to 5 minutes, but they won't be there that moment. So what the EPC tip of the month is, we would like our citizens to become part of that chain of survival. Take the CPR classes and be, even at an amateurish level, for 2 to 3 to 5 minutes, you're pumping on that person's chest. You are improving their chances at surviving. You are certainly improving the quality of life they'll have after the event. And to make it easy for people to get this training, the Farmington Hills Fire Department on the fourth Thursday of every month has a class on AED, CPR, Stop the Bleed, and now Narcan, which is a Narcan treatment. That's the first 10 months of the month. The last 2 months of the year, they do it on the third month to negotiate around the holiday seasons. But that's not all of it. As we speak right now, at the Hawk Community Center, there is a city hiring event going on to try and bring people into the community centers for the summer. That includes the Hawk and the Cossack Center. And the point I'm trying to bring up is the pools need lifeguards. And as part of the onboarding of a lifeguard, you learn basic water safety, you learn AED, you learn CPR, you learn basic first aid. So a job at the Hawk would be not only a fun job to do and hang out with the kids, but you learn a skill set that you can then carry with you for the rest of the year. In addition to that, the Farmington Hills Special Services Group has a training class at the Hawk on March 9th and 10th for babysitting classes. Now, this is for your children to babysit other people's children, and it's open to people between the ages of 10 and 16. And of course, you'll learn the skills you're required for being a good babysitter, which include infant CPR, infant Heimlich maneuver. Again, a skill that you can take with you into the rest of your life. And then, as a side note, the Farmington Public Safety, which is our sister city, on the second Thursdays of every month, they have a neighborhood watch program. And in those classes, they teach Stop the Bleed. So the point I'm trying to make is it's easy for you to get the training. It's mostly free for you to get the training. You have to spend an evening, a little gas, and maybe buy your own self a dinner. But it's very easy for the whole community to pick up these skill sets to be part of the chain of survival. And at this point in time, I also said I wanted to hope to see you at the polls tomorrow, but since that's passed, we'll just say thank you and good night.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to the commission for your service. Okay, in the order that I have received the cards, Jason Tooney is next, followed by Sarah Pitchford.
Hello, City Council and Mayor Rich. Thank you for letting me speak up here. I'm a 36-year resident of Farmington Hills and very happy resident. Hope to get another 36 years. I want to talk to you guys today. My profession is I own a cannabis company in Detroit. I employ around 100 people, a little bit more than that. We have very good paying jobs. And I wanted to see if you guys have had any dialogue since you guys have started the new year with anybody regarding licensed cannabis businesses in Michigan and Farmington Hills. If you guys have had any dialogue, how do we get involved? How could I get involved with that dialogue to see if there's an opportunity for us to open up a business in the city? If you haven't had any dialogue, I'd like to see how we can get some started, being that I've been in this industry for 17 years now. I recently purchased a commercial property in Farmington Hills that I think would be eligible if we were to create a zoning ordinance. But my main thing I'm here for is that, and I'd just like to see how we can navigate this and create some type of groups to inform people about cannabis. Recently in Oakland County, Southfield, Walled Lake, Madison Heights, Lake Orion, Oxford. There's, I think, around 7 cities in Oakland County that have opted in. Berkeley, Royal Oak. All these cities their residents are benefiting. And not only are their residents benefiting, but recently the state cut around $70,000 per store, per check for the city. So a city like Farmington Hills would probably have 4 to 5. Potential revenue loss is around $350,000 that would come in through excise taxes. My name is Jason Thwaney, happy resident, and would like to contribute to the process of seeing if we can get licensed cannabis businesses in Farmington Hills so the city residents can benefit from it. That's it. Thank you. And you guys are all doing a great job.
Thank you. Okay. Sarah Pitchford, followed by Sorry. Stacy Kyle.
Hello, my name is Sarah Pitchford. I live in Hazel Park. However, I do work as a case manager and a social worker in community mental health here in Oakland County, and I serve Farmington Hill residents. I'm also a member of the Hawk with me and my family. We also share a congresswoman, which I feel is important. I'm here to ask City Council to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and protect the Palestinian people. The U.S.-backed Israeli military has killed over 30,000 Palestinians since October 7th attack by Hamas. We are a global nation. We know this. Things that happen across the globe impact our day-to-day. We see this in gas prices, prices of our goods, treatment of our people, and we see it in the polls. Talking of polls, we had a pretty eventful week last week. Over 100,000 Democratic voters in Michigan cast a vote for no one. So there was absolutely no mistake in knowing where they stand when it comes to genocide, despite our legislators continuing not to support their constituents' stances. 10,000 of those votes were from the 11th congressional district. Our legislators are so indebted to crooked lobbyists that their actions have continued to fund genocide against the Palestinians. Cities across the state have passed ceasefire resolutions, including all of our neighbors, Warren, Ferndale, Dearborn, Detroit, and more. The passing of these resolutions forces our legislators to listen to what the constituents need. The democratic process is rooted here in this room in local politics, taking a stance for the dignity of others. Today, in this meeting, we can come together, stand on the right side of history, and make it clear that this city does not stand for ethnic cleansing, that it will not stand for genocide. The time is now, so just to be clear, I would feel it's very important that the City Council calls for an immediate, durable, and sustainable ceasefire to protect and save human lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Stacy Kyle, followed by Angie Smith. Good evening.
Hello. I spoke up here a couple weeks ago, and I will say most of the words that I'm about to say are actually not my own. I'm going to obviously credit whose words they are. But this first one, and I want to preface this by asking everyone, most of the people in this room are probably over the age of 25, right? Okay, we don't need to say the ages, but just think about what you were doing at the age of 25.
Okay, for the record, yes,
Yes.
thank you.
So just think about what you were doing when you were 25. Probably had responsibilities, but you were probably having a pretty good time in your life. Now, the words I'm about to read in this particular post are from a woman named Bisan, who is 25 years old. But instead of being able to have good times with her friends, maybe find a job, go to school, whatever it is that she wants to do, she has instead had to not only endure over 150 days of a genocide and ethnic cleansing of her people, losing people she loves, losing her home, losing her cats, but she's doing it again at the age of 25. And so here are some words from Bisan. It's been 5 months, 150 days of horror, of injustice that the world will not be able to justify to its grandchildren. 150 days in which corrupt and colonial governments took the opportunity to test their weapons on the bodies of children, of our children. For 150 days, I have been afraid of cement ceilings. I do not want to be crushed to death when a missile lands. I sleep in a tent, and I am like hundreds of thousands suffering cold at times, heat at others, and disease and hunger at other times. 150 days as we bid farewell to our loved ones and friends and said out loud together, who's next? Where do we go? 150 days and governments look at us as an opportunity for media and political show. 150 days and we live what none of you can bear to live for one day. For 150 days we have smelled death, we see it, and it follows us. And many times it leaves us to torment before it comes, sick, wounded, and homeless. That's just one of her posts. The other Palestinian journalist who I want to share some words from is Motaz Azaiza. I hope I said his name correctly. who also turned 25. He actually turned 25 during the genocide. And it was actually when I first came across Motaz's account, because I heard, and I saw the video, where he had gone to cover yet another bombing of yet another Palestinian home in Gaza, only to learn that in that bombing, he had lost 15 of his family members.
It's not a name.
In an instant, they were all gone. Since then, I don't even know the number of friends and family members he has also lost. But this is what he urges people to understand. These are his words. As humans, we all have a responsibility to bear witness to what is happening in Gaza. I tried my best to show the world our reality. Now the world needs to show where it stands. It is ordinary people, men and women, people in this room, who have the power to save what remains of Palestine. Our plea is simple. We just want to live. I'm going to repeat that last line. Our plea is simple. We just want to live. I also have a post that I will credit. Her name is Carmel Writes on Instagram, and she is a Palestinian Egyptian writer. It must be nice changing the channel the minute Gaza is mentioned, scrolling through the videos on Instagram, never mind the unattached arm lying in the middle of the street. It must be nice being able to look away, hiding under the pretense of it's complicated, being able to practice empathy for some people, but not the ones who don't look like you. It must be nice choosing ambivalence over action, barely paying attention when preemie babies were abandoned to die alone, their bodies left to rot, their parents left with untold trauma. It must be nice seeing a young journalist move from her home to a camp, 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 7 times displaced and not batting an eye. Ignoring the final words of 100 other journalists targeted for showing the truth, their deaths barely making headlines despite their profession. It must be nice not having a heart, but that's exactly why I will always choose to stare directly into the eye of wrongdoing, no matter how much it hurts, because heartache is proof of life. Okay, and for the final part of my speech, I'm sure you've all heard the name Aaron Bushnell, who again was 25 years old. And I know what some of the media in the US likes to say, that he was mentally ill, but he wasn't. He was very sane. He knew exactly what he was doing when he went to the Israeli consulate in DC. And even after his lighter initially failed him, I don't know, I counted 5 or 6 times it failed him, he did not stop until he self-immolated and then burned to death. And even as he was burning to death, his words were "Free Palestine," because he understood what he was a part of, and he understood that his action would hopefully spark, I don't know, more protests, something to help for a free Palestine. So what I'm about to play you are his last moments that he chose to self-record.
I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal.
You're at time.
Yeah, so, I don't know, maybe pass a resolution.
Angie Smith, followed by Dr. Sophie Elsim.
Good evening. Every time we turn our heads the other way, when we see the law flouted, when we tolerate what we know to be wrong, when we close our eyes and our ears to the corrupt because we are too busy or too frightened, when we fail to speak up and speak out, we strike a blow against freedom, decency, and justice by Robert F. Kennedy. The reason I brought that to the City Council today is because our state reps came a couple of weeks ago to our Farmington African American Parent Network. And Sam Stuckloff, our state rep, wanted to hear from the parents and the students in the Farmington Public Schools because of what we are going through. As many of you know, I am a board member that have been on the board for 7 years, and I have been censored and banned from our buildings. And now we have situations where I am being blamed for all of what's going on. But I am not that person that is molesting our students. I am not that person that are calling our children the N-word. I am holding my board members as well as the superintendent accountable. And I say that today because we had a wonderful relationship with each and every one of you until the mayor got elected. So you're not in this part of the conversation. But I'm here today because I am appalled and I am insulted as an African American Latino woman that our community, the African American parents and stakeholders, were contacted and told not to show to those meetings. That's obstruction of justice. People receive phone calls and were told they just want to hear what the people had to say. So I grew up with a very strange grandfather that always had analogies. And by the way, he was a white Irishman. And he said, there's 12 months in a year, 6 months to mind your business and the other to stay out of somebody else's. So what wound up happening was board members and those that sit on this city council made phone calls. And they made the conversation out to be, Angie Smith is the problem. She's the one that did this. Well, as all of you know, you all receive that information just like we do. As a matter of fact, you get more information than I do. But I also want to say that the parents and the students were asked because Sam Stuckloff wanted to hear peace and to hear these people's words. And with the community seeing what's being done to me, that was the only way that they were going to get their points across. But unfortunately, the police were called in. So I don't know if you were expecting a Tarzan movie. I don't know what you were expecting, but at the end of the day, the African American community has just as much rights as anyone else to sit down and have a conversation with our elected officials. And I'm not going, I don't want to hear, well, this is what we do at coffee hours. No, we do not, because I sit on the 11th Congressional Executive Board, and I was just with the mayor of Detroit and Senator Coons. Not one police officer was there. We have a reputation for having a bad police department and racial profiling. The chief didn't even know nothing about this. And most people in the community would always pick up the phone and say, well, it was the chief that did this, but it was not the chief. There's another thing, and I want to address the mayor. I would like you to refrain from saying you speak for the Black community. Eating a chicken wing, listening to the Motown greats, doing the latest hustles don't make you a Black woman. Hanging with the Divine Nine does not make you a Black woman. I would ask that you would not say that you're the voice for the Black community. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sophie Elson, followed by Stacy Jackson.
First of all, a sincere thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Michael Bridges and Councilmember Jackie Bolaware. You are good people who believe in peace and justice and protecting the oppressed. To the rest of you, wait a minute. Oakland County is a silver-tier investor in Israel. Oakland County and Farmington Hills has millions of dollars in contracts and investments in Israel. Remember these facts. Last time I was here, I went through the numbers carefully of how much money Michigan, Oakland County, and Farmington Hills are making off the murder of our children. Since several city council members want to continue to lie that they are neutral to the murder of our children, I'm going to focus on these members. But first, last week, the city council sat in front of us and talked about how they wanted Myers to look, when this Myers was actually an investment in Israel. The Farmington Hills Planning Commission approved the sale of the property to RPT Realty, merging with Kimco Realty, which is a joint venture with BIG Shopping Centers, an Israeli publicly traded company whose stated mission is to acquire high-quality neighborhood and community shopping centers throughout the United States. Oakland County and Farmington Hills actually give a lot of real estate contracts to Israeli and Israeli-tied companies. Kimco already owns the shops at Old Orchard in West Bloomfield, for example. As another example, the Lukowitz Group and Encore are Israeli-traded companies renting out shopping centers in Farmington Hills, including Family Dollar. So the city council sat here and lied to us that they can't make a statement on Israel. I guess because they just invested in an Israeli property company. Always remember that Farmington Hills has contracts with Israel. Even the Farmington Hills Water Department gave contracts to Israel. Now, Teresa Rich, who funded your campaign?
Okay,
Who stands behind you
hold on,
financially?
Stop, please. We don't do personal comments.
Okay, let's name a few of the ties to Israel. Your campaign was funded by Marla Linderman, the vice president of the Jewish Federation of Ann Arbor, the biggest opponent to ceasefire in Michigan. You were also funded by Eric Gould on the cabinet of the Jewish Federation. Also Andy Gutman of the Farmington Group, tied to the Jewish Federation of Metropolitan Detroit. Those are just a few of the names funding Mayor Teresa from the Jewish Federation, which is, again, the biggest opponent to ceasefire in Michigan. Well done for being funded by people who work for and with the Jewish Federation against ceasefire, while lying to us that you are neutral on the bombing of our children. You are also funded by Barry Goodman of the Michigan Region Anti-Defamation League, an organization for Israel. You have been endorsed by the Joint Action Committee for Political Affairs, a pro-Israel PAC. And of course, you endorse Haley Stevens, puppet of AIPAC. You are firmly in the pocket of Israeli groups. Now, Councilwoman Knoll, you are the state and local government relations manager for Stellantis.
Wait, stop. We do not do personal attacks. If you
This is not a personal attack. This is public information, which is tied to the Israeli Innovation Authority. Your campaign was funded by John Walsh, President and CEO of Michigan Manufacturers Association. John Walsh is on the board of directors of the Michigan Israel Business Accelerator. Everyone, please remember the Michigan Israel Business Accelerator profits and millions of dollars off the murder of our children. Now, Councilman John Aldred, you worked as Director of Product Management at Hottinger, Burrell, and Gyre Incorporated, which has a division in Israel. 3 years at Chrysler, huge division in Israel. Yeah, 7 years at Jaguar, huge division in Israel. Your campaign was funded by Eugene Greenstein, the former president of the Michigan Zionist Organization of America. Greenstein wrote a letter to the Detroit Jewish News that there can be no peace with Palestine until Israel beats back Islam. You are also funded by Sue Bernstein of the Tea Party. It was Sue Bernstein who led the vicious attacks to prevent the sale of property to the Islamic Cultural Association in Farmington Hills. She has been a major anti-Muslim bigoted voice, platforming the Israeli agenda for decades.
That's time.
Okay, thank you to the mayor and Bill Dwyer.
Stop it. We do not respond and act out. Okay, Stacy Jackson, yes. No. No, there's an order. So after all of these blue cards have gone through, yes.
Oh, that's okay. Just have a seat, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Stacy Jackson, to be followed by Keith Harris.
Good evening. Stacy Jackson. I'm with a advocacy group called All Race and Life Matter, where race is RASE, real activism serves everyone. I'm here tonight primarily to discuss my concern after attending board meetings. Having followed behind tonight's speakers, I am here to be a voice of reason to the leadership here. As an African-American woman, there are certain things that my spirit will not allow our children to repeat. I am convinced that racism without repercussion is bound to be repeated. The accounts from the parents that I've heard at the board meetings and the students, where they are having somehow or another thought it was appropriate to have slavery simulations in the schools, where African American students are deemed as the enslaved and our white students as the enslavers. I'm sorry, but that type of experience should not be repeated. The fact that there are students who have said that they have had their hijabs ripped off of their heads in school, I am sorry, but those type of offenses should not be repeated. My concern is that when parents present this to the school board, those elected to be the voices of reason, and nothing happens, that's a concern, not just for the board members, but for this city. Real activism really does serve everyone. My husband has a saying that it takes heart to have a spine. I'm afraid that what I'm witnessing is that many don't have a spine because it's not showing any heart. It takes heart to stand up for those who do not look like you. It takes courage to stand up and fight for those who do not worship like you. I don't have to be of Jewish background or Palestine. And clearly, no one has to be an African American to know that it is unacceptable under any context for any child to be referred to as an N-word in the public school system. We don't need policy in Farmington. We need those elected to have a spine and heart to enforce the laws and rules that govern us all. Justice is not just for those who look like ourselves. This city needs to do something, not just wait for the school board. And while I know that this collective body are not the voices of reason to govern that area, you clearly have influence as the leaders of this city. Use your strength, grow your spines, have a heart. Stand up. Use your voice. People will listen. All you need to do is to say stop. That inside of our schools, racism has no place. Discrimination has no place. Disrespect has no place. Education is and has always been this nation's greatest equalizer. When you destroy that foundation and crumble the very essence of what it makes us all to be human, it reflects upon us. I'm disturbed that I've heard in 2024 that there are children in a suburb being referred to as the N-word, that they are accosted, that we have Arab students whose hijabs are being yanked for their heads. You must act. You must act.
You. Keith Harris, followed by Halima Halilovic.
How you doing today?
Good evening.
My name is Keith Harris. That was my wife who just got through speaking. I love her when she speaks. Oh, man. Our organization is called All Race and Life Matter. We think every race means something to us. You know, I've missed a hearing based on our police chief and some of our police officers here in Farmington Hills. But what I don't like is the lawyer who have came before you, Dionne Webster, her sister, Wendy Webster Jackson. I'm going to say their names. I will not let them racially divide this community. We're dealing with some issues everywhere. But I can just about tell you, your police chief is 100%. I met him before a couple of times, and he didn't avoid the strong, hard questions that I presented to him. He didn't run from them. He didn't evade them. I refused to have a lawyer or a doctor. I was attacked by Dr. Wendy Webster Jackson when she was running for office. She spit on us at a voting poll. She told us she had COVID. Now, this is a doctor. And then her sister represented her in court like it wasn't nothing. This is the same lawyer that's saying racism exists in this city. Let me tell you something. We have some issues everywhere. But I can tell you right now, we are on the verge of structuring. You know, I give Ms. Gerald her credit. She's brought a couple of forums before this, police forums together. And we got some fine new young cops coming. This is the new era of policing. They understand they're wearing body cameras. They understand what they're facing. We have an opportunity to mend some fences between the African-American community and the police department. We should take advantage of these opportunities. You know, like I said, Southfield got a great police department, chief. Farmington Hills, wonderful guy. But when I hear a couple of characters on the radio and in TV, talking about racism in Farmington Hills. Oh, you got white cops shooting at black people. You got white cops doing this and that. You know, the minute I looked at the paper and I said to myself, that's my nephew. That's my nephew taking this picture. He's an autistic young man. His uncle took the picture. And in my heart, I said, this is a setup. This is a blatant setup to make Farmington Hills look bad. She brought all these things up on the radio and on TV. I hope you have a good media group that can go back and counteract some of the things she's been speaking on. Don't put this kind of fear in your community with the black community. We're dealing with our issues with the public school system, but let's not put this issue out there and make people fear Farmington Hills. My daughter just moved here. My daughter moved here 2 years ago, bought a $450,000 brand new home. She's an executive for Ford Motor Company. Her husband is a therapist. I got 2 beautiful grandkids that's about to start the Farmington Hills school system. And I don't want them to feel afraid. My wife used to work in Farmington Hills, and not once did we have a problem with the Farmington Hills Police Department. I've been driving through Farmington Hills for 30 years now. Never once have I had a problem. And if I had a problem, I would speak on it. I've been sued for $5 million for standing up against wrong by these same characters who are saying this city, the police chief is a bad police officer. He's a bad cop. I don't believe that. I think there's some bad apples everywhere, but the Farmington Hills police chief ain't one of them. He ain't one of them. Don't hold any statement that Deion Webster is making against.
Please, no personal attacks.
Okay, well, don't take any statement made by her to hold any sort. Like I said, I hope you got good lawyers. I hope you put up a real good, like I said, media forum, because some of the things are just wrong. Like I said before, we got some issues, and I think we're going to work through them.
Mr. Harris, that's time.
Okay, but we're going to do fine.
Thank you. Okay, Halima Halilovic, followed by Muhammad Halilovic.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Halima Halilovic, and you probably remember me by now, as this is my 4th time coming here to speak up for my community members that are left shattered here in this community. This ongoing conflict in Gaza is leaving many of our community members feeling unsafe and unsecure in their own city. It is imperative that we do our part to address this crisis by passing a ceasefire resolution in Farmington Hills. Every day that passes by without a resolution, more innocent people suffer, more children are deprived of their right to a peaceful childhood, and more families are torn apart. By passing a ceasefire resolution, we can send a powerful message of solidarity and peace to those who are caught in the crossfire of this conflict. It is our duty as representatives of this city to advocate for the well-being of our residents and to work towards a resolution that brings an end to the violence and restores stability to our community. This is not a matter of policy or politics. It is a matter of humanity. Let us come together as a community to ensure that the voices of those who have been hurt by this ongoing conflict and war are heard, and that their suffering is acknowledged. I implore you to do everything in your power to pass a ceasefire resolution in Farmington Hills and acknowledge your community's suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. Muhammad Halilovic, followed by Pastor Dale Milford.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Muhammad Halilovic. So just like my daughter before, this is my 4th time coming here. And honestly, I am just kind of distraught that we still keep coming here. We still haven't done anything on behalf of the innocent civilians being killed in Gaza. So I thought to myself, what do I say that's a little different? And something that kind of stuck out to me last time, it was Mr. Bruce and Ms. Knoll. They referenced some historical, basically, references that, for thousands of years there's been conflicts there and et cetera, what can we do about it? So I said, let me do something a little different, educational, just to make sure that, you as city council members hear from actually, and I'm going to reference Ilan Pape. He's an Israeli Jewish historian, has lots of books about this subject and topic. But what I thought, let me just reference some of the historical facts, and I think it will be beneficial to all. And just to kind of preface, I'm going to start with 630, about 630 AD. So this is roughly the period when the early Muslim conquests happened in the area of Palestine. So for about 13 to 1400 years, there's been relative peace in that region where all Christians, Jews, and Muslims live together. And as a matter of fact, when the first caliph from the Muslim conquest, when he came, he actually invited the Jews to move to Palestine because they were kicked out by the Byzantines beforehand and some of the previous folks that lived there. So with the exception of about 100 years from the Crusaders that came there, there's been always peace in the area of Palestine. So I'm going to fast forward from 630 to 1878, and I'm going to go year by year, or some of the major milestones where at least you can see some of the things that happened. So 1878, so first Zionist agricultural colony in Palestine to make room for the migrants, 1878. 1882, 25,000 Jewish immigrants, mainly from Europe, settled in Palestine. 1897, Zionist Congress raised petition for a home for Jewish people in Palestine. 1901, Jewish National Fund set up to acquire more plots of land in Palestine. 1904 to 1915, 40,000 Zionist immigrants arrived. Jews now total 6% of the population. 1905, Israel Zangwill states, this is quote, Jews must drive out the Arabs or grapple with the problem of a large alien population. 1917, Balfour Declaration, British pledges support for Jewish national home in Palestine. 1918, Ottoman handed over Palestine to the British after World War I ends. 1919, First Palestinian National Congress rejected the Balfour Declaration and demanded independence, but nothing happened. 1919 to 1933, another 35,000 Zionist immigrants arrives. Jews now total 12% of the population. 1920, Zionists founded Haganah, underground military organization. 1921, Palestinians mass protested against large-scale Jewish immigration. 1924 to 1928, another 67,000 Zionist immigrants arrived. Jewish population rises to 16%. 1935, arms smuggling by Zionist groups discovered at Jaffa port. 1939, Zionist leader Jabotinsky writes, the Arabs must make room for Jews in Eretz Israel. 1946, Zionist terrorists bombed King David Hotel, killing British soldiers. Leading up to 1947, British handed Palestine problem to United Nations and left. United Nations partitioned Palestine land between the Jews and indigenous Palestinians, dividing more land to smaller Jewish population. 1948, war broke out between the Jews and Arabs. Haganah announced military service for young Jewish men. 1948 March, ethnic cleansing blueprint, Plan Dalet finalized, Haganah mobilized. 1948 April, Plan Dalet launches by Haganah, one of the worst massacres of Deir Yassin, where they killed 15,000 people
That's time.
and forced 100,000 people to be exiled.
It's time. Thank you very much. Pastor Dale Milford, followed by Suhair. Should put my glasses on. Ghanem. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Rich and council members. My name is Pastor Dale Milford, but I come here wearing three hats in a way. I've been a proud homeowner of Farmington Hills for 28 years and proud to call this my home of one of the most diverse communities in all of North America, and glad to be a part of that. I also am here as a representative of Michigan United, where I work in the Faith in Justice division of the largest largest justice coalition in the state of Michigan. I also come as associate pastor of Narden Park United Methodist Church, just down the road from us here, a mile from here. And I'm here to speak on behalf of peace. Yes, we could say that I'm here to speak for a ceasefire resolution, but really as a representative of peace is where I'm coming from. I mean, we started in January with an MLK multi-faith peace. We were planning a march, but then we decided the weather wasn't going to do it, and we followed the suggestion of the police chief, actually, and kept it all indoors at Narden. And we were proud that our Mayor Pro Tem, Michael Bridges, came and gave a very eloquent speech as one of the speakers that day, speaking on behalf of peace, which demonstrates that it's all of our responsibilities to speak up, to not remain silent, but to speak on behalf of peace. And just last week, we sent out an invitation to all of the council members, and I know your schedules are very busy, but there were 125 people attended our multi-faith discussion session on peace in the Middle East. We had representatives from the Jewish community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, and people distinct from that, from the Arab community. All of us joining together with the voice for peace, that we are looking for any way that we can to reduce bloodshed. It is, I believe, all of our responsibilities to speak up on behalf of it. Because I'll close, I'm only going to take half of my required time, but I want to keep this short and brief. I'll refer back to MLK that we were quoting so much in January, that he said, but in the end of it all, we will remember not so much the voices who spoke up against us, but our friends who remained silent, to which I say amen.
Thank you. Nope. You. Okay, Melina Peristakis, followed by Alexandria Peristakis.
Good evening, Mayor and respected council members. My name is Suhair. I was born in Nazareth, Palestine, and my parents were 1948 Nakba survivors. I'm here again to speak to you tonight as this second Nakba is unfolding as vicious, as horrifying, as devastating beyond belief. The situation in Gaza got worse since last city council meeting. We can't unhear the accounts of starving children in Gaza. You can't unsee the images of torn children's bodies. And you can't undo the knowing of the atrocities to justify your silence. When is it calling for a ceasefire and releasing of all hostages become a radical statement? When is it standing for peace and diplomacy by concerned city councils became a controversial issue? It is our duty as much as it is yours to speak up when our tax dollars and bombs are continued to be used to commit these atrocities. According to the UN World Food Program, Israel intentionally is using food as a weapon. Israel continues to block food, water, and medicine to reach the civilian population in Gaza. 8 aid trucks with food have been directly targeted to date to further inflict terror on the population, so they have no hope of reaching any food aid. According to the United Nations, the amount of aid reaching the Palestinians in Gaza dropped by 50% in February compared to the previous month, while no aid truck has reached North Gaza in the last 2 weeks. Last week, Israel targeted with drones, tanks, and snipers, Gaza civilians awaiting for an aid truck, killing over 112 and injuring 760 people. Civilians are terrorized as they try to get wheat flour to feed their families. Today, the health ministry in Gaza reported that 16 children have died from starvation. Dying from starvation or famine is a horrific ordeal. The child will experience wasting. The child will look like a skeleton, skin on bone, with sunken face and empty stare in their eyes. How can a parent endure seeing this happening to their child while they themselves are helpless and haven't had food for weeks? More than 500,000 are enduring famine this moment, and more than 1.5 million are hungry in Gaza. That is why your call for ceasefire is urgent and crucial now. In the report published by Johns Hopkins University states that if a ceasefire is immediately enforced, 75,000 children's lives could be saved from famine. Not calling for a ceasefire is being complicit in these atrocities. Here is a quote by the philosopher John Stuart Mill. "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." Thank you for your attention and listening.
Thank you. Okay, now Melina Peristakis, followed by Alexandria Peristakis. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Melina Peristakis, and I'm sure some of you remember me from last meeting, and the meeting before that, and the meeting before that, and the meeting before that. Some of you more than others. You know exactly what I'm here for. You know exactly why we're all still here, meeting after meeting after meeting. You know that our message is still the same, meeting after meeting after meeting. Last meeting, Mr. Randy Bruce mentioned something along the lines of, the president isn't going to let it be like, hold up, Farmington Hills passed a resolution for a ceasefire. We should do that on a national level. He's right. President Biden won't be noticing Farmington Hills resolution. What he will notice is how many ceasefire resolutions are pouring out of Michigan, including Farmington Hills, hopefully. Like Detroit, Wayne County, Northville, Warren, Dearborn, and Dearborn Heights, and also Lansing, you know, the capital of our state. And not even just in Michigan, Chicago, that big city in Illinois, they passed a resolution ages ago. So yes, Biden won't be specifically thinking about Farmington Hills. He'll be thinking about the countless cities like Lansing and Chicago and lots more in Michigan and other states that passed the ceasefire resolution, and maybe be like, that's what my citizens wants. A ceasefire resolution. Do we need to talk about what is now known as the Flower Massacre? Around 100 Palestinians approached a delivery of food aid, primarily flour, and the Israeli army opened fire on the crowd of hundreds more, killing over 100 Palestinians and injuring roughly 750 more. And then it was reported that IDF tanks ran over the bodies of the deceased. That is disturbing, disgusting behavior caused by what is supposedly known as the most moral army in the world. I would like to say that this is not a holy war, as people like repeating. This is not an ongoing conflict between Muslims and Jews for thousands and thousands of years. It makes it sound barbaric and uncivilized. Another thing I want to address is another comment by Mr. Randy Bruce that he made last meeting, specifically where he said, this region has been at war for thousands of years, referencing the Middle East area of Palestine. That was insulting. I guess he didn't seem to realize that he's calling us barbarians, that we seem to love war, that we just go back. We fight more and more and more and more and more. And it's just like we raise more people to go off and fight. So we need to call for a ceasefire, a permanent one. Not only will it help end the suffering overseas, it will be a way to help educate the ignorant people that I've interacted with and seen around.
I've seen many ignorant people in the last few weeks. I bet a lot of people understand too. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandria Peristakis, followed by Hussein Peristakis. Good evening.
Good evening. It's been 149 days since Israel began its latest and most barbaric attack on Palestinians in Gaza. 149 days of relentless bombardment of Palestinians in Gaza. 149 days of genocide. 149 days of Israeli propaganda to try to justify the unjustifiable. It is not possible to justify the murder of innocents, plain and simple. This isn't a conflict or a war. It's a genocide, humanitarian aid that has to be airdropped into a 26-mile by 5-mile wide area where 1.7 million people have been bombed, massacred, trapped, starved, without water, gas, and electricity, and humanitarian aid that is blocked by Israel through all the borders. Doesn't it seem like something is catastrophically wrong? On countless occasions, the latest being March 2nd, Palestinian civilians go to get food that was airdropped to them, and they are massacred trying to get it. Does that not scare you? Does it scare you knowing that you are a part of the United States government that fully funds Israel, the brutal oppressor? Does it scare you that weapons used to kill the children of Gaza are essentially our own, manufactured right here in the U.S. and sent straight to Israel for the sole purpose of killing innocent Palestinian civilians? This hasn't been going on for 1,000 years. It's been going on since 1917 when the British drew up the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was a letter written by British Foreign Minister named Arthur Balfour. A European power promised the Zionist movement a country where Palestinian indigenous natives made up more than 93% of the population. This is considered the stepping stone to the Nakba in 1948 when armed Zionist gangs trained by the British violently ethnically cleansed 750,000 Palestinians from their homeland. Nakba is the Arabic word meaning catastrophe because that is what it was back in 1948. In 1967, Israel ethnically cleansed another 250,000 people off their indigenous lands. And since then, an equal amount has been ethnically cleansed. Great Britain never had the right to give away Palestine from the Palestinians who have lived there continuously for 1,000 years. Today in 2024, there's no excuse for being ignorant. If you're sitting as an elected city council member, you must at least educate yourselves before you deem it acceptable to make such ignorant statements before a room full of people who are way more educated you in this specific subject than you. Ignorance is no excuse for complicity in this genocide. It is so disgusting that I've been here 4 times already asking you to pass a ceasefire resolution and you haven't batted an eye. We are watching a genocide for the sole purpose of ethnically cleansing the indigenous Palestinian people off their land. Israel is the aggressor and it has been massacring Palestinians all over Palestine for the last 100 years. They have been killing Palestinians in the West Bank where there is no Hamas. No, stop playing games. Stop turning a blind eye to what is happening to the Palestinian people. Quit saying that it's not within your jurisdiction to comment on international affairs when you did it willingly for Ukraine a few years ago. There should be no double standards when it comes to condemning genocide and calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. Just do it already and stop wasting time. Stop waiting for Israel to completely annihilate and ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people before you finally do something about it. Call for a permanent ceasefire and educate yourselves. Lastly, I would like to end by thanking Mr. Bridges for his support for a ceasefire resolution. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Hussein Peristakis, followed by Jenna Peristakis.
Good evening, Mayor Rich and City Council members. I wanted to read a 2-page written in a book called Children of the Stone. as a for fundraising for Palestine, and the author of this piece is Aya Isa. What does it mean to be Palestinian? What does it mean to be Palestinian? I look at the world today and all I see is complete and utter chaos. We witness the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, my people, and I can't help but ask, what has the world come to? Our joy of life has been sucked away, our spirits are gone, our bodies are numb, and there's pain we feel, but we ask the world, why can't you see that what is taking place is so wrong? We wake up every day to the constant news of our people being bombed again and again, over and over, yet it gets 10 times worse each time. We are walking through this life, this dunya, which is Arabic for life, as lifeless corpses because we feel as if we failed the Palestinians. Children, mothers, and fathers, the world has failed you. That's how I and everyone in this community feels that has come in here week after week after week. We have made sacrifices. Yes, you told us last time, the kids need to go to sleep. Guess what? We know that. Our kids are some of the most intelligent, bright, well-behaved students in your community. And we know that. We are making sacrifices coming here, bringing our kids here, pouring our hearts to you. You know what? Most of us are professionals. We work all day. And then we sit and write these speeches for people that are writing notes back and forth like middle schoolers. It's infuriating. And you know what? Now it makes all sense. The speaker that spoke and told us of all your connections to Israel, it makes perfect sense now why there's not an ounce of humanity in the people that we're addressing week after week after week after week. So now I'm going to continue. What does it mean to be Palestinian? And guess what? I'm going to keep coming week after week after week, and you're going to be hearing from us week after week, meeting after meeting after meeting, until you recognize that we are a valuable part of your community. What does it mean to be Palestinian? Well, nowadays it means death threats are perceived as a new normal. It means we are not safe here in the American dream our parents once strived for. It means we are perceived as a threat and only a threat. The days of feeling hopeless and useless will never stop because we wish it was us and our brothers and sisters' place instead of them. We wish we could rescue all of our Palestinian blood, yet we can't. We spend our days pleading for the world to recognize our shared humanity. As we sit comfortably in our Western bubble, we enjoy privileges we often take for granted, the privilege of falling asleep in the comfort of our homes, the privilege of readily available food, clean water, and the freedom to move about without restrictions. Do you know why the people of Gaza are in such dire starvation? Not only because Israel has been blockading food, electricity, and water, and clean water for the last 150 days, but because they've been under a brutal siege since 2005. They've been already on the brink of starvation before October 7th.
Stop.
Hamas is not in the West Bank where almost 400 people have been killed and thousands of Palestinians have been jailed. 6-year-olds have been thrown in jail for what? We spend our days pleading, okay, I think I read that. We spend our days pleading for the world to recognize our shared humanity, yet we must remember that these everyday comforts are luxuries to those living under Israeli occupation. We are privileged beyond our comprehension, and it is our duty to empathize with those who endure hardships we can scarcely imagine. So I pose the question, what does it mean to be Palestinian? To be a Palestinian means born without a target on your back. It means facing unwarranted suspicion and fear because we do not conform to Western standards or propaganda. Wearing a headscarf is no longer seen as a symbol of beauty. Instead, it is seen as a threat. For children born in Gaza, it means uncertainty about reaching their next birthday. For fathers and mothers in Gaza, there's a constant fear that they may not witness their children grow another day. Yeah, lots of infants have been murdered by Israel. As a father, it is your innate duty to protect your loved ones, but in this case, you can't even protect yourself. You can't even get a bag of flour off a humanitarian aid truck without getting massacred by Israel. What does it truly mean to be a Palestinian? What is it to be dehumanized, to mourn the deaths of your loved ones, to live in constant fear of the annihilation of your people? It is what Palestinians feel every day, a reality we have faced since 1948. I ask myself, when will this horror stop? The plight of the...
Thank you. And Mrs. Peristakis, I apologize for the outburst. Sir, if there is one more, you will have to leave. Sir? Enough. You're welcome to submit a card and, okay, well then, when the order comes, I will call on you. There are a lot before you. Okay, sorry about that. Jenna Peristakis, followed by Pete Peristakis. Okay.
Good evening, Farmington City Council members. My name is Jenna Paratakis, and I would like to let it be known that this
Can you
is
be
my...
more in the microphone, please?
Oh, of course. I would like to let it be known that it is our 4th time here, me and my family, begging you to call for a permanent and immediate ceasefire. I remember our first time here, we thought we would come in and ask for you to call for a ceasefire, and you would, of course, acknowledge the atrocities being committed in Gaza and call for a ceasefire. To say it more clearly, I guess we trusted you to stand up for human rights. We trusted our elected officials to say, you're right, we must speak out against evil in the world like the city council did in the case of Ukraine. Instead, we were met with a half-hearted welcome and a clear slap in the face from Miss Rich when she brought up a resolution from 2005 that states that you guys would not get involved with international affairs. Yet the resolution was passed for Ukraine without a question or by repeated pleading from the community. We had witnessed Miss Knoll and Mr. Bruce giggle as we talked about carpet bombing and pass notes all through our speeches about the death of thousands of children killed by Israel. At the next meeting, Mr. Bruce displayed all his knowledge on the subject as he said that the conflict has been going on for 1,000 years, when in fact Hamas has only been in power since 2005, less than 20 years, which is significantly smaller than 1,000. I feel as though you aren't listening to me as a citizen of Farmington Hills, and quite the contrary, laughing in my face. It is about time you call for a ceasefire in Gaza because the situation has only gotten worse and more dire. Ignoring it and turning a blind heart and eye to the situation is not going to make it go away. So do your part and stand up for human life and Gaza's life, because it's time that the government recognizes that Black and brown people's lives are just as important as white ones.
Thank you. Stop it. No, we do not respond to public comment, or you will have to leave. Thank you. Stop. This is public comment. If you have a comment to each other, go in the hall. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Peristakis. Good evening. Stop it. Take it in the hall. Go ahead, please.
Information for you guys to see. You guys can read it and pass it along.
Okay, those go to the clerk and they'll be shared with all of us.
Sure.
Thank you.
This is Pete Peristakis. I'm a resident of Farmington Hills. I just wanted to congratulate you guys. You guys have heard about over 100 or so speeches from your constituents requesting for a simple letter to be written. Last time I was here, I suggested just take a Detroit's letter, print it out, and sign it. Very simple. But you guys should be proud of yourselves. I mean, you guys were able to fend us off without doing anything. Shortly, there will be a ceasefire. It has to be, right? United States, they don't have an option. President Biden doesn't have an option. So you guys aren't going to have to do anything, it seems like. Just sit back and wait for it to kind of go away, right? So that's the reason you guys should be proud of yourselves. But I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of the sister in the back. If she had 5 more minutes, she would have taken out all 12 of you. Literally. All 12 of you. She's got all your numbers. And you guys are all your numbers. If I had 5 minutes, I would give her my 5 minutes if you would have let me give it to her.
She's got a lot of good information. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves, taking all that money. You think people are stupid around you. We're all educated. We all know. It's all information to find. All the smirks on your faces. You guys are the ones that are going to be paying the price later. That's all. You're not going to be reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Eric Shelley, followed by Rambla Nakadar.
Hello, my name's Eric Shelley.
Thank you. Would you please speak into the microphone so we can hear you, sir?
I thought I was. Hello, my name is Eric Shelley. I am an organizer with Michigan United, and I would love to give you the history of Palestine and run off a list of the statistics of the numbers of people who have been killed, but I think that's kind of pointless. You are intelligent people. You're perfectly capable of turning on the news and getting this information, not to mention all these people have come up done more than I could ever do. I am here, however, to rise in favor of a ceasefire declaration on behalf of the city. If not to save the innocent civilians in Palestine, to save your eternal souls. Because I think it's been clear that a resolution is going to do little to stop the bloodshed. But at some point, it will be too late. And you will have to ask yourselves, what did I do? That's why everyone else is here. There's not much we can do to stop the bloodshed in Palestine. But we can do this. And one day it will be too late, and you will have done nothing, and you will have to live with that. And you'll have to go to sleep, and you'll have to have these women's faces in your mind as you close your eyes. And I don't want that for you. I want you to go to heaven. I want you to save your souls now while you still can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
One moment, please. Sorry.
Oh, sure.
I want to make sure to give you your time.
Thank you. My name is Rabia Nakadar. I am a resident of Bloomfield Hills. I am an outsider, essentially, but I'm a healthcare provider, and I provide a lot of healthcare for the residents of Farmington Hills. And I came here with a different agenda on what I was going to speak about, and I was very attentive to the lady prior to the Historical Restoration Project. And I was very impressed with what's been going on here, and it was a very educational opportunity for me. So some of the quick notes I got to take was there was a graveyard restoration, and I didn't note the exact words she said, but I think it was, you'll know the kind of people by the people that are in the grave. I'm paraphrasing. And there's a Botsford House restoration, and Beaumont Hospital is part of that. There's fixing of the roof structure, preservation, and then I saw, your 6 through 17, all the monies that are being allocated to improving the infrastructure here in Farmington, and I'm very impressed. I think that you guys are doing a great job with doing all of that. That being said, I can only go back to think about what we're not standing for. So we have in Gaza right now, they're destroying mosques, they're destroying universities, they've destroyed hospitals, they've destroyed olive trees, they've destroyed cemeteries. The very kind of cemeteries that you all are helping to preserve, bulldozing them. And who are in those cemeteries? 13,000 children, 9,000 women. And honestly, I quickly couldn't even Google the men, because the men are not represented in the mainstream numbers, but they are fathers, grandfathers, brothers, sons, cousins. These are men who essentially, like all men, want to provide for their children safety, food, shelter. they're unable to do so. So, you know, I say Farmington is that whole presentation about what we're doing for our historical society here. That's the America that I know. That's the America that I was born into. That is the America that my dad came here in 1972 from Pakistan to be a scientist, to do basic research here in the area of Alzheimer's and autism. You know, I would ask him, I said, Dad, why didn't you become an MD? You'd make so much more money. And he said, you know what? I couldn't serve humanity the way I wanted to if I was an MD and if I didn't come to America. He had an opportunity to do his research in Scotland and England, and he said there was going to be no other place than the United States of America to pursue his endeavors. And that's what I've grown up with. And there was, you know, I said to my dad, I said, you know, Dad, when we were growing up, people would say, oh, go back to your country, go back to your country. And I said, you know, I never thought there was a day that I would say, I'm kind of jealous that you can go back to your country. But what do I do? This is my country. And he said, you have to fight. You have to fight the way I fought to be here. You are going to have to fight to stay here and do what you have to do for justice, here and abroad. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Eloise Sirleaf, sorry, I didn't, kind of fell together, followed by Ember Thompson, please.
Good evening, Mayor Rich and council member. I would assume that Mayor Rich, if you were faced with a life-threatening situation now, or any emergency, that goes to almost 90% of people in here, your best mode of activation would be 911. Unfortunately, for people in Palestine, they don't have that option. And as we speak, they are in an emergency. They're fighting for their lives. They're navigating their communities to even get food, water, health care. But the sad thing is that children, as we speak, they have been parentless today. They have been orphaned. There are kids going to bed tonight and getting up tomorrow morning to step in the shoes of their parents because the parents may be killed. And you may wonder, how do I know this? I know this because I have an experience with Civil War, an experience waiting on the United States to alter this war, ceasefire. And that was in Liberia, 1990, as a teenager, when the Civil War started. We looked up to the United States to just say, stop the fight. And we knew it would have been impactful. But guess what the United States did? They sat on the high sea and looked. And I, as a little girl, I stood wanting a normal life. I just wanted a life to go to school, be a teenager, have fun. But I couldn't do that. I had to run on the bullets. But the most saddest part was that since there wasn't a ceasefire, on September 14, 1990, my 39-year-old mother walked out of the house, and this was a disciplinary. I was the only girl she had. But that night, for some reason, she got so friendly with me and began to tell my sibling, call your sister your mother now. And I was like, what is this? A few hours later, I heard bullet sounds, and I made a remark. It's somebody's mother they're killing. So I took my brothers, my sibling, let's go in the house. 6 a.m. that morning, a neighbor came to my door and told me to kill your mother. I counted 9 bullet holes in my mom as a teenager. That very moment, I became a woman, not a teenager again, because I had to care for my siblings, 5 of them. And then being a fast little girl, I was a teenage parent too. So I had 6 kids to care for. Still, there wasn't a ceasefire. Still, the United States didn't see a reason why they should call for a ceasefire for a country that they call Little Liberia or Little America. We call it Uncle Sam. We America's stepchild. 3 weeks after my mother died, because there was no health care, my older brother died right in my hands. But I still had to move forward. I still had to care for other kids. 3 months later, my brother, my little brother, he had cholera, dehydration. I watched my brother wasting away because no health care. I had to not use 911, had to use my skill as a teenager to feed him Lipton tea and salt. Keep giving him that water to hydrate him. It didn't stop there. 6 months later, I went through the different rebel areas to go and find my dad. I wanted to be with my family. He was killed too. So I'm saying this to say that the world is a global village. 30 years ago, I stood up hoping that America could call for a ceasefire. It didn't happen. And as I stood over my mother's body, I said something to myself. I said the world will hear this. I wasn't expecting to come here today and call for another ceasefire so that children in the Palestine, human beings in general, don't have to go through what I go through. Now the world is a global village because you're hearing my story because I live here now. So I hope that tonight you sleep and think on the lives of people that you don't know today. Those people could be in your community tomorrow with traumas, the traumas that I have brought here. So I appeal to all of you to please, we don't want just a temporary ceasefire or permanent ceasefire we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Thompson, followed by JK.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ember, and I am terribly afraid of public speaking, but we are completely out of time to be afraid. So we are just going to do our best, and I have endless respect for everyone who's been speaking out tonight. It should be common knowledge at this point that Israel's torment on the Palestinian people has gone on long before October 7th. Israel has not been quiet about its plans to conquer Palestine and strip its people of basic human rights. In the words of Israel's Minister of Finance, Bezalel Smotrich, he said Palestinians are to understand that they have no chance to get a state of their own. They would have to choose between a life of subjugation under Israel's rule or immigration or death. It is a bleak realization that we have not evolved past the way of brutal colonialism. I feel we all should be feeling a sense of shame as a human race that we are capable of so much destruction and terror. And I just dream of a day when the people's voices are heard as our anguished cries for a ceasefire are lost into space. So I ask you to take action. We need a call for a ceasefire now. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, JK, followed by PG, and then I have no further cards. So if you would like to speak, please begin to form a line.
Farmington resident for about 40 years. Didn't really come to talk. Just heard about these meetings lately and the pressure that you're getting from members of the community and maybe outside the community. Saw a lot of people here during the Pledge of Allegiance sit down, so I don't know how they feel about our country in general. But I want to thank you for having the spine not to make a proclamation, because it's not your duty to make a proclamation one way or the other. I thought I could come here and maybe talk to some of the people that are on the other side of my ideology. But tonight, I don't think I'll be able to do that. They don't understand that it's not your responsibility to write a letter to take side and split this city right in half. If you want to write a letter, or if you want to write a letter, or you on your own, that's fine, but not as a city. That's not their job.
Please address your remarks to council.
What?
Just face us, please.
I got a neck kink, okay? So if they're going to hold up signs at me, I may address them too.
No, not during public comment, but continue.
Just let me have my moment, please. If they want to have peace, those signs shouldn't be saying things against Israel, ceasefire. All a ceasefire do was allow Hamas to get strong again. They should be saying, those signs that all you are holding up should be saying Hamas out of Gaza, not Israel out of Gaza. Israel was out of Gaza until October 7th, at which time Hamas, members of the United Nations, which has been proven, have also came across the border, raped, mutilated. You want to argue that to the United Nations that came out with the report today? Lies? The United Nations lies? Okay.
We will not have outbursts
Please, could
during
you stop the comments here, please?
You? Okay, if
That's,
you have to
that's the
speak
answer,
during comment, leave.
that's always the answer. Lies, lies, lies. But you know what? You know, nobody's believing your lies. So Gaza has been around for a long time and free people, and they voted in Hamas. From around the world, they got billions and billions and billions of dollars. Their leaders are living in Qatar, living the high life. They're going to Vegas. They're going all over the place, while the poor Palestinian people are living in squalor, building tunnels so that they can go across the, would you mind if they tell them to sit down? So that they can come in and rape and burn children. The schools that they have teach the Palestinian children to kill Israelis, to kill Jews. I see a priest here, a man of the cloth, that wants to take sides.
Pause, you out. You out. Counsel.
Mayor, our rules prohibit disturbing the meeting and the ability to allow people to speak. And this gentleman is attempting to speak. An individual standing and waving signs is disturbing the conduct of the meeting. So it would be a matter of order.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think everybody should have to sit down and respect all the speakers and no matter what side they're on.
Ma'am,
she's
out.
out of order.
Yes,
You're out of
true.
order.
I'm calling all of you out. So go tell Hamas to get out of Palestine.
Okay, enough.
You can laugh.
If you cannot
You
restrain
can laugh.
yourself,
They're the ones that
leave
oppress your
the
people.
room.
Why don't you take your masks off so people know who you are?
Sir, you address your comments to council only.
I think we should probably take a break and let
Okay.
everything cool down.
There's still hostages?
And take a break.
Or do you, I'm sure they don't believe there's hostages.
All right,
either.
let him speak. And
All right. Okay, Miss Gerald.
And then take a break.
We're going, after you, we're going to take a break because you were the only
Yeah,
people
I-
that couldn't
Let
come.
her know that, because she thought I took cuts in front of her.
No, she was next.
Got to know the information.
Okay, everyone.
I'm gonna wind it up.
Thank
Okay, sure, because me?
No, sir, go ahead.
I just want to make one more comment. It's about our police chief. I participated in a caravan to support our police when
Okay.
I want to support.
He was interrupted, and
Yeah,
I
got
will
interrupted.
allow it.
I'll make this really quick.
Thank you.
So anyways, a caravan to the police station, support our police during that whole time. And I stood next to our chief on the front, right on 12 Mile. And I said, boy, I don't know how you do this. All these people coming by here being angry at you. He goes, it doesn't matter. I support everybody, and it doesn't matter what they think. You got a great police chief.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Gerald. And we were going to take a break. So know where you are in the order, but we're going to need to take a little break. It's been a while. Good evening.
We talk about democracy.
To the council, please.
I am disgusted. I am disgusted, and since we're calling names, the husband and wife from Southfield, I have known them for many years. Every single election, You put out a negative flyer. You have talked about Arab negatively that work for the city of Southfield. You've talked about Jewish people negatively. You have talked about blacks negatively. You have talked about whites negatively. I am sick and tired of all of this. This takes away from the process of government for this city. We have city issues that we need to be dealing with. This is not the proper form. This is not the proper form. We know nothing good comes from violence. But all the disrespect here, you're so busy hating that you can't even hear them call a name, that you want to say, I'm up here taking cuts. Get the facts before you do this. I don't normally talk like this, but all of you have gotten up here and talked nasty, with the exception of a lot of these young girls that really got some professionalism, that really has some intellect.
Please.
I'm in the raw tonight because I am just sick and tired and frustrated. This guy from Southfield that was talking about Wendy Webster Jackson and the attorney,
names.
I was at court the day he went to court. The judge dismissed his case because he didn't tell the truth and there was not enough evidence.
Ms. Fitzgerald, that's a personal comment.
Well,
Please
he
address-
made it
please-
personal.
please
I
address-
was there.
Please address your
All
comments
I
to
am
council.
saying is nothing good comes from violence. You get more flies with honey than you do vinegar. Because someone does not agree with you, does not allow you to do what I've observed tonight. And that is to talk about what you don't know, to harass people because they don't agree. You are turning people off. We want to understand what's going on. And we cannot understand with this attitude. I am sick and tired of this.
Please address the comments to council.
I am talking to council, but I'm looking down because I'm upset. We have children in here. And you tell the children not to be bullies. You tell the children to speak in a tone of voice. But they've seen all of this from the adults. How can we? How can we? I don't even know what to say anymore today, other than nothing good comes from violence. We still have a pandemic going on, and people are coughing all over the room with no mask. I wiped this off because all I've seen was saliva hit the black tip. I don't want to get COVID. I've done very, very well. Why? This is ridiculous. It has got to stop. Because someone asks you a question, answer the question and help us be in the know. Don't admonish us for not taking a certain position. Because it's not about the position that you take, it's about the education that you can render about the situation. Now stop all of this and be ladies. Wear your dressings with dignity. Educate us on the issue. Allow us to ask you questions to understand. Don't admonish us because we don't understand. And if you're going to talk about somebody taking cuts, ask me and I'll tell you. This is sickening. This has got to stop.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Council's adjourned. And we're back. All right. Welcome back. We are continuing public comment. Your time begins now. Thank you. No, the microphone is not on at the podium.
Sure, I thought I saw Jacob earlier. Karen, yep.
Our assistant city manager. Karen, could you ask him to make sure the microphone's on in the podium, please? And if you've already spoken during public comment, you're done.
This one? This one?
Thank you. So, no problem. This is pretty flexible too. Anyway, I wanted to make a couple of comments. I was not able to be, well, first, my name is Afrah Al-Masmari. I am a resident of Farmington Hills, I think almost 6 years now. And I have not been able to come to the past, really? Okay. I have not been able to come to the city council meetings with my dear respected community members, but I did, and I was able to watch both sessions live fully, and I was bothered by a couple of things, and I really wanted to make this comment. And one of those being, when on that very first session, when all of these people came and started talking about how they feel about what's happening overseas and asking you for a specific ask. And one of the comments that was made was, if what you're saying is going to be the same as the next person and the next person, just say what that person said. And I just thought that was very disrespectful, just because everybody comes with, their own viewpoint, their own vantage point. And again, they're also venting, and you are our city council, and you should be able to sit there and listen to us and not try to expedite everybody's statements by saying, just say what he said and what she said. And the other thing, then this happened at the second session, when Mayor, respectfully, you said that, we're going to try to speed this up, or because kids have to go to sleep. I just feel like a lot of these comments were very condescending. If they were intentional, that was noted. If they were not, I don't say this as a point of attack, but more so as a point of reflection, specifically for some of the systematic bias that exists, and just for each of us to reflect on how we communicate with our, community members, specifically because many of us don't feel heard or valued and really glossed over. And it's evident each time that we come, and this has been a repetitive theme. And so I really kindly ask that when you're addressed, or when we come and speak to you, that you give each individual the due respect and have them feel seen and heard. Another thing I'd like to comment on was, I heard the mayor say that all the blue cards are done, and anyone who wants to make a comment can go ahead and line up, and I lined up, and then someone was in front of me. I asked a question, and then there was the outburst. I tried to rectify that, but that didn't work out very well either, so I just wanted to make that clarification as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Did we get it? No, not yet. Not yet? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Maha Azzedine. I live on Westmoreland Drive. I wanted to
Can you
read,
put the microphone closer? Thank you.
I wanted to read the 2022 proclamation by Farmington Hills. Farmington Hills Proclamation. Farmington Hills stands in solidarity with the sovereign nation of Ukraine, March 2022. Whereas there are about 45,000 Ukrainian Americans in the Metro Detroit area, all watching in shock and horror as their homeland is attacked by Russia. Whereas the city of Farmington Hills is proud to have Ukrainians among our community's diverse population, and we stand in solidarity with the sovereign nation of Ukraine during this unprovoked declaration of war. And whereas Michigan welcomed Ukrainian immigrants following World War I, World War II, and the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the state's Ukrainian American community has become one of the largest and most active in the United States, and whereas our hearts go out to those with relatives and loved ones in Ukraine who now face the loss of their homes and their lives during this time of unimaginable violence. And whereas we support efforts to provide humanitarian aid to the millions of people who are fleeing conflict in Ukraine, and whereas the City Council denounces this unjustified aggression and reaffirms our commitment to promoting the values of freedom and democracy throughout the world. What we're asking here is much less than this exuberant support for Ukraine. We're not asking you to stand in solidarity with Palestine. We're not asking you to adopt the Palestinian code. We're not asking you to take sides against Israel. We're asking you to call for a ceasefire. It's a basic element of peace, an end to violence inflicted on civilians and innocents. What threshold did we reach? What threshold of violence did we reach in Ukraine that hasn't been reached here? What motivated leadership of Farmington Hills to issue a statement? Is it because they thought we could effect some great policy change? No. Is it because cities can and should speak out on behalf of their citizens when great injustice and pain arises in the world? So what is holding you back now? Is it fear, not wanting to stand out? Are you fair weather friends of peace? This is the central struggle of our age and time, that some lives are more worthy than others. That most, not all, we have plenty of cities who have called for ceasefire, but most cities align with power, money, and influence, whatever direction it goes. We had hope that our leadership would be different, that they weren't fair weather friends of peace. We call again for an end to violence, basic dignity and human rights for everyone in every part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you're going to have a sign and you want to hold it up, please be in the back row because there are people behind you. Ma'am. There are people back there. Thank you. Okay, let's keep the commentary down, but let's make sure everybody can see. Thank you. I think our microphone's still out, so if you could be right there, that would be great. Thank you.
My name is Dolly Klein, and I'm a resident of Farmington. And I was just coming here today to say that I am Jewish and I am still in favor of a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, and that I would like just to be on the record to be on the right side of history and to encourage you and to encourage Farmington Hills to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Musab Abdullah. I want ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Last call for public comment. Last call for public comment. And public comment is now closed. We now have council member comments and announcements. Would anyone like to begin? Anyone have comments or announcements they would like to make this evening? Okay. I would like to share a couple things. I've been asked, and I have continued to respond, that I do not see issuance of a proclamation outside of what we've already done to serve the city's business, and that our focus is going to be on the city's business. And I understand that there are people who think that we do not support the Muslim community. This is kind of what I'm hearing from the comments. And if I'm incorrect on that, I apologize. But that's what I'm hearing. But I would like to share that we have been doing work for our Muslim community, as well as other parts of our community. Just this last week, we are working with the new chair of the Arab American Chamber of Commerce, working on how can we bring more business to the community that would support our residents and our business owners and our employees. I was asked to help make sure that we have swim time for the sisters to protect their modesty. That would be sisters only swim time for swim and gym, and we're working on that. I have made, and we have made as a council, we have made appointments to the council, commissions and boards of members of the Muslim community. And so I would just like that to also be understood when you say that we're not listening and we're not caring about our residents, all of our residents. I would also like to myth bust something that I saw on a Nextdoor post today by a person who claimed to have been at one of our businesses on Orchard Lake Road when it was allegedly subject to a robbery. That is flat not true. So if you see that on Nextdoor, there is no validity there. We've talked to the store owner. We've talked to the people who worked before, during, and after the alleged time that this incident supposedly happened. Could someone please shut the door to the chambers? And so I'm not quite sure why the person has posted this and continues to insist that they were there. But if you do see this, it didn't happen. Finally, want to share we have State of the City's address on Wednesday at the Hawk, sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. Looking forward to that. And so that was my comments. City Manager update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of comments. Sci-fi, the work on sci-fi continues in parts of the city, as I've shared with you in my weekly memo to you. We've have had some issues with the underground contractor unfortunately hitting gas lines as they're boring in the new fiber. So we're working through some issues with them. The Assistant City Manager and I and the Engineering Department are meeting with Sci-Fi to help rectify those situations in particular areas of the neighborhood. And then lastly, I'll be brief. Because of the warm weather we're having, I'm sure many people are outside trying to clean up their yards and spruce up their yards. Just a reminder, yard waste pickup does not begin until the first week of April. So April 4th will be the first day of the first week for yard waste pickup for it to resume. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, I left you the easy one, the on the clock.
Oh. So we will be hosting part of the NFL draft. They're having Detroit is hosting this year, as we all know, and Farmington Hills has been included as part of the on the clock programming, which is on March 19th and starts at 5:30 p.m. at the Hawk. So we hope to see lots of people there. Thank you, Mayor, for reminding me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Wanted something happy going. Okay, that then takes us to new business. Item 3, consideration of approval of the capital improvements plan. Good evening.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks for sharing, Jen.
You're welcome.
Charmaine Kettler-Schmaltz, Director of Planning and Community Development, here to introduce the capital improvements plan. We have before you the request of review and acceptance of the document. The capital improvements plan is prepared each year and reviewed for approval by the Planning Commission as a planning document that feeds into the budget review. So it is a planning document for all capital improvement projects for the upcoming fiscal year into a 6-year time frame. So Planning Commission completed their review and formal approval of the document at their public hearing that was held February the 15th, and we have it before you this evening. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, council, questions? Council, motion?
I'm motion, Mayor.
Please.
First, I had the opportunity to read the document, and it's quite comprehensive, and
appreciate the information regarding the sidewalk reconstruction in the city as well, and in many projects that you have outlined in the project, so I appreciate that. This is a great document. It helps us guide us the next 5 years in regards to our capital improvement program.
Thank you. There's a lot of staff time in that.
Yeah, it is. So I move that the council will approve the capital improvement plan for 2024-25 and 2029 and 20 and 30 as well. So I move that the council approve the current plan as presented.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, so Mr. Aldred? Okay, and I think we all echo the thanks for the many, many hours of staff time. What an incredibly comprehensive document. And for our residents, it's on the city website. Suggest you take a look.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a regular vote. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it carries. Next up, consideration of approval of resolutions establishing ad hoc subcommittees, and we have 3 coming before us here. So let me cue this up a little bit. We may recall that when we had our goal-setting session in January, we talked about there being a lot of things we want to get done this year. And then we also talked about, might there be, we had a study session conversation about it, might it make sense for a couple of these items, and we've put forward 3, where we could maybe have an ad hoc subcommittee with a couple of us, a couple of staffers, maybe a couple people in the community, to then come back and make a recommendation for all of council, so that we can maybe move these things forward a little sooner rather than later. So in that view, we have 3 that are coming forward today. One that would be looking at mission, vision, branding. One that would be looking at the mental wellness initiative that we want to do, which would include a symposium this fall, and we don't know for sure yet what else. Let's let the data tell us. And then finally, one that would be around bringing back the Innovation, Energy, and Environmental Sustainability Commission, maybe in a new and revamped way. So I have 3 proposed we have 3 proposed resolutions in our packet. First one would be establishing the mission and vision branding subcommittee. So, Mr. Bridges?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would move the council establish the Farmington Hills City Council Mission and Vision Statement Ad Hoc Committee. This committee will expire 2 years after it begins.
Okay, and who would be on it, please?
Members of this committee would be the mayor and myself as members of this particular commission.
And we would welcome one more if one more wanted to join at some point. That's a motion. Is there a second, please? Support. Okay, supported by Ms. Bolaware. This would be a regular vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That one goes forward. The next one in our package is, whoopsie, went too fast. Somebody help me out on this one.
Mental health.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Bolaware?
Yes, this is to make a motion to establish the Farmington Hills City Council Community Mental Health Ad Hoc Subcommittee for a term of 24 months or 2 years, and composed of Mayor Teresa Rich and Councilmember Jackie Bolaware.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion. Is there support?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So
All right. We are returning to open session following our closed session. Carly, do we need to do a motion to return? No. We are just here back in open session. We have no action that needs to be taken at this time, and we have no further business to come before council. Do we have a motion to adjourn, Mr. Alderman?